PodJerky, bringing you an audio experience the likes of which you've never heard before.
PodJerky.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of PodJerky. I am your host, Direktor Awesome, joined once again by Mrs. Awesome. Hello.
Hi.
So today we're going to do part 3 of our documentary review. And for those of you who have not seen this one, wow. This one is called Trainwreck Woodstock 99. I don't even know where to start off with this one.
I'm ashamed of our generation is how I would like to start it, because honestly, this was we would have been
at that age to go to that. So
I didn't realize we could be such assholes.
We originally had seen this, this trailer on Netflix and kind of just bypassing and go, that seems interesting. Maybe we'll watch it down the road, whatever. And then my massage therapist actually said to me, have you seen this documentary? And I was like, no, we have a plan on watching it though, because it seems interesting, but we had a few other things, that we wanted to watch. And I said we would eventually get to it. But wow, when we started to watch it, we were like, what the hell is going on here? So it's a 3-part documentary, about an hour each episode. And it just takes, each episode is per day. So it would be like day 1 is part 1 and day 2, etc. This is a Woodstock, but not a Woodstock, because the early Woodstock in the 60s was all about peace and, like the music and love all this. Yeah. Right. And, people were very peaceful at those, I'm sure there were some.
Was a family because they interviewed people who were at the original Woodstock. And they're like, it was very much a family. People would look after each other's kids or, go and get food, and you would sit, and like, it was very much what you would think Woodstock would be, which is that whole peace and love and happiness type.
Right. And so these people come together and think, you know what, here's a money-making opportunity. Let's do Woodstock 99. We're going to have a whole bunch
the original guy who started Woodstock 69.
Yeah, he was involved as well. The head promoter was John Scher. So he's interviewed throughout this documentary on Netflix here. And they talk about all of the things that they wanted to do for this festival. And they end up doing it on an army base. I can't remember where it was done. It was in New York. That's right. Yes. It was an army base.
Rome, New York, I think.
Yeah, I think so. So they use this army base to, I guess, because it's so full, they have people going over there to check it out. And they're like, this is a dangerous situation because a lot of it is concrete and, runway for the jets and the planes to land. How are we going to do this? They have all of this, they start setting up for this whole festival, this whole concert. They have their vendors, they have their the stage set up. They have, they basically made it like a Fort Knox where people could not get in at any point except for the entrance point. There were no way that you could climb over the walls. There was, security. There was all this stuff. So it looked like a legit concert that people could go to, or festival.
Yeah.
There was a camping area where you could go and camp so that you could stay for the 3 days. And again, at that time, it would have been people that are our age, maybe a little bit older, early 20s. There were actually a lot of teenagers, 14-year-olds there that shouldn't have been there. Probably to, in your 30s and 40s that, these kind of people were listening to this kind of music. Now, I have to say the lineup of music that
was everybody we listened to.
Yeah, that you got to see in the documentary was basically the bands that we had listened to. I was actually in shock that I saw Wyclef in there doing, I guess, I don't know if the national anthem or if it was Star Spangled Banner, if it was, I don't remember. I can't remember what it was, but it was weird to see him the way he did it. I believe it was a take on Jimi Hendrix version of it. But like smashing a guitar and it was just really strange to see the difference between how Wyclef is today to Wyclef back then. It just really, really different. So we go into the festival, we go into day one. The bands play, the crowd is insane. There were over,
like, what did they count? Like 200,000. Was that it? I thought it was more.
So they were saying the numbers were about 200,000 people. They did not have enough security to cover.
What did they call it? The Peace Patrol?
Yeah, the Peace Patrol. I think
they were not security.
No. They did not have enough security because people were coming up towards the stage. They couldn't hold them back. People were throwing things in the crowds. They couldn't, they couldn't stop that. They had the like Carson Daly, I think, was there from MTV.
Well, MTV was one of the main news outlets that was there, obviously, given the type of outlet there.
So just to name like a couple of the artists that were there was like Gavin Rossdale, there was Korn, there was Kid Rock, Limp Bizkit, Jewel. Like there were a whole bunch of artists that were really good back then. Sold a lot of records.
Rage Against the Machine.
So you have to think with a lot of the bands that I just named right now, high up-tempo, angry, raging music. So what are you going to do with a crowd like this?
200,000 person mosh pit, essentially.
Right. And that's exactly what happened. Now, the weather did not cooperate there. It was extremely hot there. People were not hydrated enough. They weren't getting the water that they wanted, that they said that was free. They actually outsourced their vendors to sell food and drinks, so that they were upcharging for the water was like $4 a bottle.
Well, I think sorry to interrupt, but I think it's important to mention that the promoter and the organizer kept talking about how Woodstock needed to make money. Otherwise, what was the point of doing this? And so some of the pitfalls and downfalls, train wreck, that this leads to is because that was sort of the bottom line to the event organizers, and less about the fact that this was supposed to be, 30, 40 years later, the new revived Woodstock of peace, love, and happiness. It was, let's go make a ton of money and have a good time.
Right. And they cut corners. Like I said, they didn't have with the security, with the, they hired they hired a sanitation company.
Or did they?
Which I don't know, didn't show up. I don't know what happened. Again, with the water fountains broke. They didn't fix them. The vendors came in, I guess, paid a ton of money to the promoter in order to be able to sell their stuff. And in order to make their money back, they were charging.
Well, and you weren't allowed to bring your own water in. They were literally dumping water botters at the gate.
You weren't allowed to bring anything in.
Other than camping.
So let's make an observation here, because it becomes important later on down the road. Yeah. You weren't even allowed to bring lighters in.
No.
So you couldn't bring lighters, and that becomes important later on in the third episode. Yeah. You find out why. But yeah, you could bring your camping stuff just to sleep. That was it. So basically a tent and a sleeping bag, and that was about it. You can bring your changes of clothes, but you couldn't bring in food, water, whatever. And you got to think at that time, people that were that our age were college kids. Not a lot of money when you're in college, right? You're living on KD.
Well, and the tickets cost how much to get in,
right? But you're living on like KD when you're in college, and ramen, and the unhealthy stuff, but the cheap stuff. So to have a lot of money just to buy food, these kids were running out of money while they were at this festival. Yeah. You move on to the bands, and because of the weather being so hot, now the people are upset about the money. The conditions that were on the field after day one, you see at the end of it,
looked like they were partying in a garbage dump. Like, honestly,
it looked like a war zone. It looked like a war zone.
Yeah.
However,
more so towards the end, but they literally look like they were partying in the midst of like a trash place. Like it was disgusting.
You hear them say throughout the documentary is that people didn't realize, they thought that they were sliding in mud, but it was actually the backup from the outhouses or porta potties, whatever you call them. It was actually human shit.
Yeah.
And these people were like sliding in it and rubbing it all over their bodies, not knowing, thinking that they were just in mud, having a good time. Again,
when you're doing it in front of the porta potty, I feel like you should be able to put two and two together.
You should be able to, but I mean,
how
much alcohol were they drinking? How many drugs were they on? Yeah. You saw a whole bunch of people passed out on lawns and, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But it was just really strange now.
And it was like a naked society, right?
Yes.
So the original Woodstock was very much about no clothes. It shouldn't matter, whatever. This, I think, more than anything kind of stuck out to me was the volume of naked people, right? And then obviously girls being naked, but the number of pictures and scenes and video clips that you would see of people just touching each other inappropriately or without permission. And I think back then it wasn't something we talked about, but to see it nowadays when it's such a prevalent topic, I was that age at that point. I don't know that I'd be going around topless, but I don't know that we would have thought about it the same way as we think about it now.
No.
And so you learn some things as you go through the documentary that are just a little disturbing.
At that time, I think in 99, I think guys thought it was okay if there was a topless woman to just grab, and again,
just see hands reaching up out of the crowd. Like it's just
strangers, just doing it. And then like the girls that were crowd surfing, the hands would go in inappropriate places, not on their chest, but in appropriate places elsewhere. And the concert promoter, like this John Scher guy, took no responsibility for it. Like he just
for anything that happened. I think that's the thing that stood out to me the most, probably, is their lack of accountability and ownership for the disaster that was that weekend. I mean, don't get me wrong, music was great. It seemed like people were having a good time until they weren't.
And all he kept saying is, we're not going to let a few bad apples ruin it for the rest of the people. However,
we're talking like 200,000 anarchists.
Yeah.
By the end of day 2, like,
well, you think, you see Jewel come on stage, and Jewel's music is really like, okay, it's mellow and we're going to relax people. They started throwing things. They were whipping, like Jewel had to leave in the middle of her set because it got so violent. It got so scary for her. They literally got back on the bus and they left the grounds. Like they didn't stick around for anything. Same with Fatboy Slim. Fatboy Slim would play a set where they had a rage tent. So there's a rave.
They ran a rave at night.
A rave, not a rage tent, a rave tent. Sorry, my mistake. Rave tent. Well, it
was the theme of the weekend.
Yeah, it was a rave tent that they had set up for after the concert. So at 4 a.m.
in the hangar, wasn't it?
You would go in the hangar, and Fatboy Slim was playing his set, and they started pelting the stage with like bottles and stuff. They had to be behind their DJ equipment.
Drove an RV
into the crowd. Yeah. I think it was a stolen RV, one of the actual event vehicles.
Yeah.
They went into the crowd, and he had to leave as well. Just because it got too dangerous for him to be there.
Well, they didn't know what was going to happen.
No, they didn't know that. But again, these are young kids that are tired, drunk,
so ashamed,
on drugs, and pissed off at the way the
you've been in the heat for 3 days. You're dehydrated.
So here's where we get to the whole craziness day is Limp Bizkit. The Limp Bizkit portion of this show was insane. However, I don't disagree with what Limp Bizkit did, because here it is. Limp Bizkit was paid to do a job, to go out there, hype up the crowd, get them going. And that's exactly what he did. He got the crowd going. The promoters, knowing full well what Fred Durst is about and what his music is about, should have cut the cord and said, maybe we shouldn't have him here. Because I went back and I watched, because they don't show Rage Against the Machine on the documentary, which is kind of weird. I don't know if they just didn't give permission for them to air that footage. Rage could be weird like that. But I went back and I watched their footage on YouTube, and the crowd was not insane like that. Like Zach had them under control. The music was great. He had them under control, where Fred Durst was blamed for inciting these like riots that happened over there.
Well, I mean, if you go back and listen to what he says, and like he flat out said, "Get crazy!" Like,
but that's the name of his song.
I know, but then encourage the behavior, and then he's like, "What do I care? I'm gonna come out and play my 45-minute set, and then I'm gonna hop on my bus and leave."
Right.
What does he care what happens?
So I think this is
he was plywood surfing through the crowd.
Yes, he
was.
Like,
come on.
But so this is the part where I was going to say, like, he goes into the crowd. People are in frenzy. They start to tear down like the audio tower. They're starting to attack that, where the people that work there are now in fear of their lives.
They're literally calling Mayday from the soundstage
because like it's being torn down, and this is like a metal frame structure with like wood around it, and you know, people start tearing down the fences. They start tearing everything down. Now, here's where we talked about the lighter earlier on. Was it him and his songs? I don't remember if it was his songs.
I don't even remember how the fire officially started.
I do. I just don't remember what artist it was. They handed out 150,000 candles.
Right.
And I can't remember what artist it was for, but it was for a slow song. And I think it was Fred Durst who did like a closing song that was like a slow song, a cover song. And they handed out candles, and people were saying like, you didn't allow lighters into this festival for a reason.
You're going to give 150,000 people candles.
Right. And these people went nuts with those things, and they started fires, and they just, it just like, got out of control. They like the production trucks, the food trucks, the tractor trailers, they set them all on fire. These things were just in flames and exploding because of the gas tanks.
I know. It got so bad that the fire department literally said, "We're not going in there.
We're afraid for our lives. We are
like, let it burn."
Yeah, we're afraid for our lives. We won't go in there.
Yeah.
And that's how bad it was. Now, this is where they start to tear down the outer wall as well.
Yeah.
So they're tearing down the wall. Now you have chopper footage. Like this looks like a bomb had gone off. Like another country had invaded another country and just annihilated it. And that's exactly what it looks like. People are running all over the place. There are fires all over the place, like in huge fires. I'm not talking about just a little ground fire. We're talking about massive fires. Agreed. They're throwing all of the like towers and, stage parts and fences into these things,
whatever they
porta potties. They were doing all of this, and it was just crazy to watch.
Yeah. But the craziest part is you saw a lot of people leaving on day 3 because they're like, we're done. We can't handle the sun, the heat. There was no shade. Basically, they'd run out of food and water to give the people, and where the vendors that did have it left, all of a sudden it was like marked up 450%.
Yeah.
Like a bottle of water by day 3 was what, $12?
I think so. Yeah.
Something crazy like that. So you saw a lot of people leaving, but they had kept talking about how there was this big surprise at the end of the night. There was this big surprise at the end of the night. And then the big surprise never came because they basically set the place on fire. So whatever they did have planned, if they had anything planned, we don't actually know if they did. They never mentioned if they did.
Who were they saying was?
There was a whole bunch of like
rumors,
but I don't think anything was confirmed. And the promoter officially, I don't think ever announced who.
I don't remember who the rumors were though. Do you remember who the rumors? I can't remember who the rumors were.
I feel like they were trying somebody like Rolling Stones, like bringing people back from like the original concerts. But it was, Trainwreck is the perfect title for that.
Oh man, I don't like. If you haven't seen this documentary, we've talked a lot about what happens in it. I highly suggest going and watching it.
We can't even paint the picture of the anarchy that is Woodstock 99. Like it just, I kept saying to you through the whole thing, like I'm ashamed because that's our generation. Like this is if we could have afforded it and our parents would have let us, we probably would have went, because it was exactly what, like, Edgefest here in Barrie is not in any way, shape, or form, what Woodstock was. But like, we went to music festivals and would sit all day and watch bands play, and you'd be outside in the heat in the middle of summer, and this is what this was. And so had we been allowed or could afford to go, we probably would have went.
Well, it was funny because you saw
me the whole time, because I was like, this is our generation. I'm so ashamed of our generation watching it.
See, New York is not that far from where we are. It's not that far of a
like,
drive.
What, 8-10 hour drive probably to where
so
it is?
It wouldn't have been that bad to go, especially in our 20s.
Yeah.
I could have drove all night. I've done it before. I don't
99, we were still teenagers. Well, last of our teenage years anyway.
But we saw in the crowd like a ton of Canadian flags, and we were like, oh my God. I was like, please, no, the Canadians, we don't do this kind of thing, but apparently we do.
So nice.
Yeah, apparently we do. We did cause a little bit of disruption over there. Apparently.
I feel like we should say I'm sorry just on behalf of the typical Canadian. I'm sorry. We were
maybe they didn't. I mean, maybe they didn't cause the problems. We weren't there. We have no idea who started this stuff.
Everyone. Yeah. I don't like. I think the thing, even now after finishing it, is the lack of accountability. Like, even years later, they're interviewing the promoter and the main guy that started Woodstock, and they still, after all this time, have no accountability. No, they still think it was a couple of bad apples. Well, go back and watch the footage. It was literally 3/4 of the park doing it,
and it was a giant success. They probably made a boatload of money. And that's why they're taking no responsibility for it. No,
I don't know that they'd ever get a permit to do another one.
And I don't think Woodstock will get approved to have an event. You can
not after that.
You can say all you want. You can beg and plead and say, we'll make sure that this is a peaceful one, and there will be no flames there. There'll be no hard rock there. There'll be, it's a peace and loving, kind of like what was that Lilith Fair, like kind of like that, where it's just all nice, calm happy music. I still don't think they'll approve it. It's just based on the behavior of 99, and it's not like the generations are getting better with behavior from what we see. So I can't see it lasting, or coming back out again. It's just it was just a crazy documentary.
Highly recommend. Go watch it. I know you heard a lot from us, even though we have told a lot about what happened. You just need to see it for yourself. Like, it is insane. Yeah.
And like I said, like my massage therapist had told me about it, and we still watched it, and I was still shocked. Yeah. So like I said, like, listening to us talk about it is not going to do you any justice. Go ahead and watch it.
I think there was a reference to Lord of the Flies by some of the people
there was
that were there. Right. Yeah. So that just kind of goes to show you the mood and the environment in which these concert goers were subjected to.
Yeah.
It was
I feel like Netflix should be throwing some money our way as a sponsor.
You should get some sponsorships for all the reviews
we do a lot of these reviews and send a lot of people your way.
I think we need to start doing the thumbs up parts on there.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll start to realize that we do these things.
Yeah. And because we do these reviews, we send people your way to say, hey, you know what? It's highly recommended. Go and check it out on Netflix. Yeah. Netflix. I'm going to say it again. Netflix. But again, you know how many shows, there are a whole bunch of shows that do reviews on shows and movies and stuff.
But we're fun.
We're not we don't do a ton of reviews. But sometimes when you have a lack of content for the time being, we've watched a whole bunch of documentaries. We do these reviews just because
you make it sound like we never leave the house after we watch a whole bunch of documentaries.
But it takes us a while. It's not like we watch them all in like 2 days. Like, it's like we'll watch sometimes one. It depends on the weather.
COVID kind of helped us, let's face it.
It did. And like the winter time, I don't want to go outside in the winter time. True. So we will watch a lot of TV in the winter. So yeah, there's a lot of them. I know Netflix isn't going to pay everybody to do this kind of thing. They'll pay the big guys their money to do stuff like this. So
we could be big.
We could be big.
We are big in certain countries.
Yes, we are in certain countries. India, I got to give big shout out to India. huge numbers over there. So yeah. But yeah, this documentary, obviously, go check it out. Really interesting. Really cool to listen to the music from 99 that you really don't listen to anymore. I actually picked up some of the music to put on my playlist because I was just like, oh my God, that song brought me back. And
maybe Rage Against the Machine and some Limp Bizkit all the way to work.
I always listen to Rage. I still listen to Rage this day. I still work out to Rage Against the Machine.
Was he not in the documentary? Who was
that was Jonathan David from Korn.
Oh, from Korn.
Jonathan Davis from Korn, yeah.
I was like, one of the lead singers was in it.
So he was from it. Gavin Rossdale from Bush was in it.
Yeah.
Jewel was in it.
He's still pretty.
Kid Rock, I believe, did a little bit, but I don't know if it was.
He didn't speak for the documentary, but they showed a clip of him coming in.
I think
he was in that ridiculous fur coat.
But I think he spoke, but it was more of an interview from a different network that did it like later on. Like it was like a clip of something like that.
Yeah.
I can't remember who else was. I think that was the majority of the artists that were in it, because Gavin Rossdale was in it a lot, I think. As was Jonathan Davis. Yeah. So but again, go check out this documentary. Highly recommend. You'll enjoy it, and as well as be shocked by it, probably.
Yeah. Let us know if you're as ashamed of our generation as we are.
Yeah. So that was part 3 of our little 3-part mini-series of reviews for these documentaries. Hopefully you enjoyed our 3-parter here. I am Direktor Awesome for Mrs. Awesome. You can always find PodJerky on Instagram and Twitter at PodJerky. You can also find us on our link tree. That's linktr.ee/PodJerky. As always, stay safe, be kind to each other, and we will see you later.
Here we go now. PodJerky.